As promised, we are talking about net migration now to the United Kingdom, and it's expected that it won't fall to below 300,000 a year for the rest of the decade. That's according to predictions from the Migration Observatory.
OK, 7 years on from... 7 years from the Brexit vote?
Yeah, 2016.
You're kidding me?
I know.
Where did that time go? And 3.5 years then from actually leaving the EU. So where are we at with migration? What's gone wrong? Has Brexit made migration problems worse? Joining to debate this, Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Ben Habib, and we've got the former Minister for Europe, Denis Macshane. Denis, really good to see you here. This sort of migration, though, that we're talking about, this is not the sort of scary migration that everybody thinks, you know, everybody's coming over from Africa and our shores are going to be invaded and our infrastructure can't take this. This is migration we want, isn't it?
Yes, it's exactly like the migration of workers from Europe that we stopped, blocked, booted them out. Not all of them. Those who were here, many stayed. But we said we don't want any more Europeans. We're going to get Brits to do these jobs. Blow me down. We're bringing in hundreds of thousands of Indians, Nigerians, Philippines, Pakistan, Bangladesh. Really, the Brexit was two great lies in the last 10 years, Eamon. The classic old one, I promise I'll still love you in the morning, and if we leave Europe, we'll get control of migration and we'll reduce migration figures. And it was just a whopper of a lie. All the lads have gone who spilt it out, except Penny Morton's still there. So now, you know...
But you see, I want to put this to Ben Habib. Ben, basically, for what it seems to me, we cannot run catering, we cannot run the hospitality industry, we cannot run the health service unless we have all of these people from outside. So, as I was saying to Denis, these are all people that we want.
Well, I mean, I think that is an admission of failed governance, if you don't mind me saying so, Eamon. I mean, I completely agree that we have completely failed our labour force. We've got 6.2 million people on some level of universal credit or another, and yet we're having to take in lots of people from abroad. And remember, these people are coming in on wages which are 20% below the median wage in the UK. So they're coming in and doing largely unskilled work, as you've identified, putting UK workers onto their back foot. UK workers are already on their back foot because taxes are very high for the working and middle class, and benefits are relatively high by comparison. So you've got a broken UK labour workforce. You've got a preparedness of large companies to employ these cheap, unskilled workers from abroad, and a perpetuation of the problem. So what we've had pre-Brexit and post-Brexit is completely failed governance as far as our labour market is concerned. I mean, I completely agree with Denis. The promise was made that Brexit would allow us the ability to fix this. But we've gone on practicing a third world economic model in a first world economic country.
Denis, can I ask you, is there some advantage? I mean, why do we care whether we're importing people from India, Nigeria, or wherever it might be, as opposed to from Europe? What's the advantage of having had I guess, cultural ties and you know, shared history? I mean, or is there a touch of racism in all of that people actually want?
Well, there was to begin with. You know, Powell famously, when the first great waves of immigrants came from Pakistan, India, Afro-Caribbean, the Windrush generation, do all the same jobs that Ben's saying can't be done by British people, and he said they should all be repatriated. My goodness, I'm glad he was fired from the shadow cabinet, otherwise we'd have repatriated Mrs Braverman's parents, Rishi Sunak's parents, Sajid Javid's parents. And really, all we've done is swap one group of necessary workers. But take a country like Switzerland, the richest country, I think, maybe in the world, but certainly in Europe. 27% of its population is immigrant, born outside Swiss borders, mainly in the EU, but they also train every single school leaver. We send 50% of our school leavers to university, and the rest, the employers, the CBI, the British Chambers of Commerce, all governments, Labour as much as Tory, have refused to train up our own non-university youngsters to take the jobs, because loads of these people are coming in, they're properly trained in other countries, they're properly trained in ex-communist countries to do jobs we could do do? Were we prepared to tell bosses, you've got to spend money on training? Germany does it, the Dutch do it, the Swiss, the Swedes, a lot of the Americans do it. That's why their economies are stronger.
Ben, how does this all get resolved? Where do we go from here? Because it certainly looks as though, Rishi Sunak saying last year that figures are not where he wants them to be. It doesn't look set to change, although there have been slight sort of tweaks because of the Chinese and the Ukrainian situation.
I mean, the first thing they've got to do, as Suella Braverman indicated, is to increase the wage level at which a visa will be granted. So at the moment, it's set at £26,000 a year, which I mentioned is about 20% below the median wage in the UK. That should be set above the median wage in the UK, forcing employers effectively to employ British people for these lower paid jobs.
And that would in turn... that suggestion. Dennis, why does that make you...
Well, very simply, this idea turns every hole in the wall, sort of sausage bap and cup of coffee corner shop, which I hope to find after I leave the studio, to start employing people at £30,000 a year. They just won't do it. Construction industry won't do it. Farming won't do it. Delivery won't do it. I mean, I'm a trade union guy. I'd love Suella Braverman to show any interest in supporting workers and forcing up wages, but this is just blah, blah, Ben, and you know it. You're the guy who's done more to expose this.
Go on, Ben. Finish, Ben.
If I could just finish. If you raise that minimum wage level at which people are allowed to come into the country, you are forcing British businesses to either upskill their own workforces or automate. It's not just about serving coffees and baps in a corner shop. It's about a much greater part of the economy than that. And it forces employers to reinvent themselves, to upskill, and where necessary, to pay British workers more. Okay. And you will then see a reduction in those people taking universal credit. There'll be more people coming back into the workforce. And paradoxically, you'll probably end up in a much more stable wage situation than we have at the moment. What we've got, as I mentioned in my opening comments, is a third world economic model.
And you've got 300,000 legal migrants a year for the rest of the decade. And Habib, Denis Macshane, thanks for your blah, 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 blah. Very good. It was very excellent. Thank you very much. We'll leave you both there.